So today we're doing a Halloween monster matchup. They are monsters. But in today's matchup, I'm going to be taking the side of Valak.
And I'll be taking the side of the Ram.
Valak is the nun. It is a nun. The actual entity, the demonic entity, is a nun. And in the actual nun movie, you really see the nun basically just come out of that room, sucks a nun in, and you really don't see how she was actually formed. She just kind of came out of the underworld, basically. The actual character of the nun has been in The Conjuring 2, was referenced in Conjuring 1, was in Conjuring 2, was in Annabelle Creation briefly, and then was in the actual Nun movie. Yeah, in the actual Nun movie.
3 different movies.
Yeah, so those are the movies that the Nun has, as Valak has actually been in, maybe 4. Referenced very slightly in some of them.
Featured in really only 2.
Yeah.
The Ram, on the other hand, who I'll be taking the side of, this beast right here will be. He's been in. From my understanding, he's been in, I guess, 3 different movies. He was in the first Annabelle. He's been featured in the three Annabelle, in the Annabelle trilogy. It's crazy it's already been a trilogy in that series. But he's the main villain in Annabelle Creation, and Annabelle Comes Home. I would say he was most featured in probably the first or the second one, honestly, even though I think he was done more justice in the second one. The first one was still a good idea, and there were some cool moments, but the second one really just did him better. But other than that, he's just in those 3 movies. And in those 3 movies, you can argue that he really has not been defeated in any of the movies. He's undefeated. His record right now is undefeated, in my opinion. But if you think about it, I can defend each movie. The first one, obviously, he wins that battle pretty much. He makes someone commit suicide out the window. He's whole. I mean, that one I can't speak too much on that because I've only seen the movie like once, really all the way through. I've watched it a bunch of different times, but not all the way through. Yeah. So I can't really say what he obviously he's messing around in the basement. He's run up and down stairs. He's on a ceiling. He blows up popcorn in that movie. That's one of my best arguments.
That's the big argument.
The second one, Annabelle Creation. That's the one that you really. It's the Rams uprising in that movie. I mean, he is absolutely towards the end of the final act of that movie. He's just absolutely just dominating. Now, granted, there are a bunch of just girls on this farm, little girls, and some teenagers. But he's whipping them around. The only man that was on the property was, I thought, someone that could probably be a challenge to him. Not at the level of the Warrens, but definitely someone that can still do something. And he absolutely just breaks all of his fingers in one hand, and then just sucks his eyes out and like just kills him on the ground like that. He also cuts a woman in half, or pins her up on a wall. He can obviously the nun can do this too, but he can manipulate things around where he's at. In Annabelle Creation, he manipulates a couple things. The Scarecrow, for one, he turns that thing into his own thing. He like forms out of it. He goes underneath like a stairwell, hiding behind Annabelle. And obviously, I didn't even mention this. He inhabits Annabelle, the doll. Yeah, but those are just a few of the many major moments from the Ram and why he's. And I haven't really gotten into his powers yet, but I'm just saying like moments of what he's done on the screen. Yeah,
basically, Valak the Nun is the actual demonic entity that Lorraine Warren. This is the one. I think this is an exact quote. Is that she's dealt with a lot of demons, but this exact case still haunts her. I'm pretty sure that's from that movie, right? Conjuring 2. Or Conjuring 1, which was the case. Well, the Conjuring 2 was actually the case that she was talking about. In the first one, they referenced the case where she saw the nun in Valak, and that was the one that haunted her still. So you know this is an absolute force. She's dealt with so many demons, but this one in particular stuck with her. It's because Valak is an absolute force, and is just an absolutely crazy force. And even in Conjuring 2, the old man who you think, Bill Wilkins? I was just watching that video. You think this scary thing, but really he's just being controlled by Valak. And then even Valak is able to get the freaking crooked man in on the plan, so she could always have him as backup in case something goes south. But basically in the Nun, obviously she does a lot in actual Conjuring 2, and then in The Nun, she's able to manipulate a bunch of other nuns and make it to where it looks like there's 10 different nuns walking around. It looks like there's 10 different nuns around.
She is very manipulative.
Yeah, she can even fool herself. No,
Yeah,
but she makes it to where there's a bunch of different nuns around, and which is going to be a major aspect in this battle if they did go up, is that she can make a bunch. She can really manipulate well, and I think she manipulates a lot better than the Ram. And Valak's just too experienced.
Here's a counter argument against the Nun. The Ram, when he does things, there's a purpose. He's doing stuff. He killed a man. He killed a woman. He cut her eye out once and then cut her whole body in half. He manipulated that body. He threw the priest lady against the wall, or whoever that lady was. He was.
Valak did that too.
Hold on, wait, maybe he did. She did, but the Ram also was marching through a field in major footsteps like this.
I think that might have been Valak.
No, it was the Ram. It was his hooves going. And then
God.
Here's another argument against the Nun. Is the argument I was gonna make before. The Nun does a lot of things that don't make sense, like her crying and the one nun crying when she is all those nuns. There is no other nuns except her.
Because she was the full effect.
The other one. How many times in that movie did the nun suck? What's her name? It's Vera Farmiga's sister in real life, who played that character in that movie. She was running down a hallway. She got sucked all the way to the door, and then all of a sudden everything stopped, and then all of a sudden her hands went through the door, and then she could just run away. Well, yeah, you could say that, but she has no. She's not very deliberate with what her moves are. She has to do all this monkey stuff around. When the Ram, if he wants to do something, he's doing it. At the end of Annabelle Creation, first of all, he doesn't get captured or defeated in Annabelle Creation. He gets thrown to a closet with all the Bible prints and stuff like that, and scripture and stuff, and that does make him a little bit ticked off. But then when the cops come in, there's a hole, so he clawed his way out of there, and he actually ended up going to he ended up overcoming. He's actually stolen 2 souls off the top of my head: Annabelle, the little girl, and Janice. Janice is the girl who gets possessed, and then she goes to get adopted. And the Ram is so deliberate with what his plan is he actually lives the life of a little girl all the way till like 18 or 20 years old, and then once she gets to that age, she joins a cult, or maybe forms her own cult, and she murders that family across the street from the first Annabelle. So the Ram has a plan.
Yeah, he's patient.
He's very patient. He has some. I mean, he also can form into. He has probably super strength, super tall height. That scene where he's in Janice's body. She backs up into the dark hallway, and you hear like the bones cracking, and she stands up, and she's towering. I think the Nun would be run her way out of there.
Well,
one other thing, the Ram uses the Nun, in my opinion. In that movie, you see the Nun pushing the little girl into the barn. Then the Ram is probably like, "Listen, I just want you to push this girl into the barn, and after that, get the F out." And what happens in the movie? The Nun, a nun, pushes her into the barn, and where's she go? Gone. She's like, "I'm getting the F out of here." Because she knows the Ram would whip her out of there.
See, you know what? As much as I'd like to believe that, I just can't, because like I said, the Lorraine Warren, this is the case that stuck with her. Obviously, the Ram, she was obviously able to scare the Ram away, because that didn't even stick with her at all. I don't know if she ran into the Ram or not, but really, what you were saying about that scene in the dark, just look at this scene here. This walk down the hallway, this walk alone, the candles are going out around her, if the Ram would look up and be like, "Holy F."
Yeah, the Ram would
she literally floats down the hallway.
Seriously just growl and go. It's just throw a freaking haymaker.
If you see this flipping walk down the hallway, this is probably the most boss, you can't really call it a walk because she's literally floating, but the most boss float down a hallway you've ever seen. And just that intimidating factor alone would really be probably the thing that would win this. But yeah, the final point that I'd have to make is that even when Valak actually goes full berserk mode, she freaking growls and has the most intimidating growl ever. And the last point I need to make is that she basically summoned lightning in one way. Because think about it, that tree, the lightning comes down. It was just a
thunderstorm.
And she knew that was going to happen.
I don't know.
So if that's confirmed, it's just game over. Because she can summon lightning.
I just thought of a major point on top of the final point I was going to make. in my mind, or in factual evidence, Valak has been defeated pretty easily just by saying her name.
Well,
And
okay,
and she said it. She said her name, and she like formed and got sucked into like a portal. And she was getting defeated. Has the Ram been defeated?
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Wait, hold on. The Ram has not been defeated. The Ram's only been suppressed because the only times that the Ram has been defeated. Okay, in the first one, I really can't think about how it was defeated in the first one, but the Annabelle creation, she got put into the closet, or he got put into the closet where the scripture was at, and that's how she was able to hold him.
He's contained in there for a while.
They were only able to contain him in there for a little bit before he clawed his way out. Then in the third one, the most recent one, Annabelle comes home. He was put into that safe or that glass box. That's the only way. You can only contain it. There's no way of actually defeating it yet. Now maybe that's because the Warrens haven't been able to.
Exactly.
Except, where was that case at? The Warrens, because they're like, don't open this case. You know why? Because we don't know how to defeat this effing Ram.
You know what?
That's make a point, then I have my final point.
Yeah, so this point before you go into the final things is that, yes, the Ram has not seen the Warrens. I mean, the Warrens are the most famous investigators ever.
He has seen the Warrens.
Okay, no, they haven't.
Well, the Warrens haven't faced him because they always catch him after
Yeah, the Warrens haven't fought him yet. See, Valak was going up against Ed and Lorraine Warren, the top investigators ever. Like, they were the most famous, top-notch guys. I mean, you saw flipping Ed literally just not even afraid as that freaking demon was forming behind him. So the Ram has to face these two before you can even say anything.
Oh,
the Nun was going up against two different top flipping dogs there. Ed Warren.
She wasn't going.
Ed Warren was there in front of that demon as she turned into it. Is that what's Ed and Lorraine Warren? Ed Warren, right?
I thought it was. I was thinking of Phil Walken.
Yeah. Ed was in front of Bill as he was turning into that thing, and he wasn't even breaking his sweat. So the Ram has to face them before you can even make that comparison. And honestly, I think the Ram has been avoiding them. But Valak took him head on.
The Ram hasn't had a chance.
Exactly, because they've been running away.
Because the Warrens are like, lock this thing in this safe. Because guess what? If it gets loose, we're effed. Here's my final point.
They didn't get to face him now.
Not yet, but the Ram, in my opinion, is 3-0.
But he got taken down in the last one.
He didn't get. He got put into a safe.
Yeah, that girl.
They threw the doll. They threw the doll into a safe, and before he opened it back up, it was locked, and he's stuck in there. That's you can only suppress it. Here's my final point. Valak has to force people into doing things for her. The Crooked Man, which I think is his own spirit, she forced him to make his act to do stuff. He forced Bill Wilkins when Bill Wilkins did not want to do that. Remember that?
Yeah.
His hidden message was, "Get her the F out of here. I don't want to do this. I just want to live my spirit life in this house, not haunting people." So the Valak has to be a mean person to get people to do things for her. The Ram inspires spirits to do things for her. The only time the Ram has ever done anything deliberately was when he said, "Valak, you're doing this one thing, and then you're getting the F out." Because here's the thing. In Annabelle Comes Home, I'm pretty sure that there's a line that says, this spirit opens up the gateway for a bunch of other spirits to do what they want to do. In this movie, when he gets loose, he's not telling these other things to do what they want to do. The wedding lady, the werewolf, the very disappointing werewolf, the
ferryman,
the ferryman. All these things were they see this huge force and you know what? It inspires us to be evil too. So he's a great leader.
Yeah, but they also have a massive room of ornaments there.
Well, all that stuff. But I'm just saying, this spirit, it said, opens up the gateway for everything else. And oh my God, this line at the beginning, or the scene at the beginning, just the spirit of the Ram being in that car inspired 50 different spirits from the graveyard to come out of the ground in that scene.
I don't know about that.
It opens up a freaking portal for all these things that come around. So if Valak ever fought the Ram's gonna have a moment like Captain America, where they're on your left, and then all these things are gonna start coming out. The Ram has very much more powers that inspire these evil spirits to become what they want to be. When Valak just says, "You're doing this, that, and that for me only." And I just think the Ram would win because he's a better leader, he's more powerful, he's done more on screen, he's been proven to not be beaten, only be suppressed. And I think that his claws and his his ability to like swipe and fly around, and maybe I think it would be a decent fight. I'm not saying it would be a one punch knockout. Like I do think the Ram just has more coin, and the Ram it's the Ram. I mean, if you look at this picture, I mean, he's gonna be grabbing Valak's robe and throwing her around places. Like, and once that, I mean, seriously, what can Valak do physically?
Okay.
I know she can growl and force things around. What happens if she growls at the Ram and he stands there and he goes, "Yeah, you're done." Boom.
Okay. So basically, I think you're not giving Valak
I think Valak's a strong character,
yes, okay.
but not as good as the Ram.
Valak went up against Ed and Lorraine Warren, who were the top dog
and was defeated.
Jake, can you have the floor here? Can I have the floor for 35 epic seconds?
And was
Jake,
defeated.
Can I have the floor? So, freaking the Valak went up against Ed and Lorraine Warren, and basically the whole Conjuring 2 movie. And these are the top investigators that have dealt with demons just left and right like nothing. And they went up against both of them. She went up against both of them, and even sends flipping Lorraine Warren flying back against the wall with one growl, literally spawns lightning, which, I mean, that literally was because of her. So that kind of power there is unbelievable. Was able to take down Bill Wilkins and just have him like a freaking puppet there. Was able to spawn, I mean, they talk about inspiring other demons, inspiring freaking the Crooked Man to come in. He was one of the most fierce ones ever.
She forced him.
No, okay, well, either way. Either way. And then, just the absolute walk of the nun going down the hallway is enough to have the Ram running away. And the fact that this was the case that haunted Lorraine Warren just means that the nun, Valak, is just an absolute force. And is even teased in other movies. And just the fact that the Valak walking down that hall like that just took out the candles, that walk alone probably had the Ram running home. And I think the Ram has been avoiding Ed and Lorraine Warren because of the same result that could happen to Valak. And that's why Valak would win this fight.
The Ram was actually mentioned in La Llorona because I'm pretty sure the priest character that we all love so much in that movie said, "I've only seen this type of spirit once before," referencing Annabelle, which is the Ram. But okay, let us know in the comments who you think would win. If you think Valak would win or the Ram. Obviously, as far as who's more intimidating.
Okay, Jay,
if there's a hallway and you see the Ram or the nun, which way are you going?
I mean, look at this walk. This float down the hallway, candles going out.
Look at this.
I mean, even hear this guy cheer. It's because they know she's a force.
Okay. Listen to this. Listen to this walk in a field.
Yeah, I'm still convinced that might be Valak.
Listen to this walk in the field in slow motion this time, louder.
Yeah, but make sure you let us know down below if you think Valak would win, or if you think that the Ram would win. Obviously, it's pretty obvious who would win.
But
yeah, but this is kind of our Halloween week of versus. Definitely, we'll have the versus video, maybe another one, and then Halloween review, and then next week we'll get back to monster matchups.
Yeah, be on the lookout for a second monster matchup here with a possible appearance of Pennywise and maybe somebody else fighting him.
Yeah.
And then also be on the lookout for, like you just said, for our special Halloween special review of a movie that we both really like. And it was a special location, so hopefully you guys enjoy it. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Bye, guys.